Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, here we are after market close on Wednesday, September 8th. We're going to take our daily look at SoFi. So SoFi coming down about 2.34% today. A bunch of stocks selling off in the market, as I'm sure you know. If I look here at my faves list, which are stocks that I commonly play and have enjoyed playing in the past, meaning I've had luck with them, which is why I've enjoyed it. There's just a bunch of red. The aftermarket hours don't count, but if you just look at the top line number, anyone that's in red had a losing day. So Walmart had a winning day on this list, Peloton, and space. So, not a bunch, and there's a lot of growth stocks in there, obviously not Walmart, but there's a lot of growth stocks in there. And so it sort of gives me a good gauge on people who are looking in this general vicinity, stock trading wise, what the overall market is doing. Now, obviously, if we come and look at the market itself, even the major indices were down today, but you do see a lot of green mixed in with the red here. So this makes it look like it's sort of a 50-50-ish kind of day, green versus red. So, obviously there have been periods of time, if you remember in February or March, when growth stocks in general were just getting the brunt of everything. So every time the NASDAQ came down a little bit, growth stocks would sell off 8, 10, 12% independently. And so to me, this isn't that uncommon. That said, the questions that this sparks for me is this just a breath, like we had talked about in last night's video, just taking a breath in an otherwise upward direction, which we've been seeing for the last few days. And at some point, that there's a red day that's going to happen. And to me, that's not a reason to sort of like run out the door with your hair on fire, yelling and screaming. It's just sort of stocks go up and stocks go down, and even in an overall upward direction, which I wouldn't put SoFi in at the moment, but even in an overall upward direction, stocks are going to stair step. They're going to go up a few steps and they're going to come down a step, and go up a few steps and come down a step. So to me, I'm trying to just sort of get a gauge, and part of this is the challenge of just talking, I don't even want to say in depth, but talking with some level of depth about the same stock every single day gets you into this situation where you can tend to think, oh, well, here we go. That was a nice run while it lasted, but it was just a few days. And now here comes the red days again. And of course, that's aided by the sell-off that we had endured since the end of June, and the sell-off after earnings that put us in this current situation. But I think in the overall context, this is a red day in sort of capping off several green days in a row. And so I'm willing to see sort of what it does tomorrow, how this impacts the few things I was looking at. So obviously it wedged out here. That's sort of a done deal. Now it still is kicking off this 50 MA. That's the next big question I have. Like, will this 50 MA just be such strong resistance that it can't get over it? The other sort of thing that I'm looking for, I don't necessarily want to say point of concern, but the next thing I'm looking for is, I mentioned this in last night's video, I'm looking for this 20 MA in purple. I'm looking for this to start to curl toward the 50. It's still not curling toward the 50, and I would really like to see it to that should add additional support if it does try to draw down further, and would then help put the MA in line with this 1502 demand zone that we have down here. And also, if it can start to put together some additional green days, then that would help effectuate a bullish crossover with this 20 MA crossing over the 50 MA. So that, I'm really, really looking for that. The other thing that I'm going to watch closely, the entire question here first was, can this wedge out? Yes, it wedged out. Okay. Can it establish over 1502? Yes, it established over 1502. Can it run to 1629? Not quite, but it did end up in this gap yesterday. And so then the question was, can it come up to fill this gap in a reasonably short period of time? That to me is sort of what's in question now, because today this gap stretches down to about 1550. I guess we could see exactly what the high was here, 1553. okay, is what this gap should be stretching down to. And so we did close below that today. Now, when I play a gap, this isn't specific to this SoFi gap, but just in general, when I look for gap plays, I don't ditch my gap play, meaning I don't throw out the window the idea that this is coming to fill the gap, and that's the play that I'm playing. I wouldn't do that until the body of the candle closes below the gap, meaning obviously this body of the candle is predominantly in the gap. It just happened to close a few pennies below that. So yes, it's sticking out underneath, and obviously is running the risk of losing that gap insertion that it has going for it right now. But as long as it doesn't put in an entire candle body below this, then I'm going to treat it as though the gap is still sort of my price target, if you will. That's what I'm looking for it to do, is run through this gap. Obviously, the other thing to look for there is the 1502 support zone that we have had charted here for a while that has held up previously. If that continues to provide support, that may keep it in the gap, but it'll just depend on how much fluctuation and price action there is on any given day. Now, the potential decent thing that I see here, positive thing. So yesterday we had a low of 1546. Today we had a low of 1514. So obviously today we made a lower low. Throughout that same time, yesterday the MACD was sitting at minus 0.29. And today on a lower low, sitting at minus 0.22. So minus 29 to minus 22 is increasing, is a higher point on the MACD. That is a bullish divergence. That gives us potentially some indication that there is bullish strength or bullish momentum that's going to come back into play. Now, in my experience, this indication or this signal is much, much stronger, or is effective a higher percentage of the time if we are in an overall bullish trend. Obviously, SoFi right now is in an overall bearish trend. It has established over the 20 MA, but it's not even over the 50. And for me, considering if something's in a bullish trend, I want to see it over the 200 MA. So we're definitely not there. And so this is sort of like is this signal going to play out in the bull's favor or not? I don't know, but it is something that I wanted to throw in there with the otherwise like cautionary signals that I'm looking at, being the rejecting off the 50, being the 20 not curling toward the 50, being it like looking as though it has the potential to lose price action in the gap. So those to me are the three detractors, and then the one positive sentiment at the moment is this potential bullish divergence that could play out in the coming days. So we'll have to see there. But also I don't want to like overly freak out about one red day, because like I said, what you look for in any stock is for it to go up and take a breath, go up and take a breath. And that's for stocks that are performing really well. And so this to me, it's worth keeping an eye on because we track and talk about the stock every single day, but I think it's mostly just a factor of that. I wouldn't really start to be concerned until we turn that 1502 support level into resistance. Then I would start to get concerned that we're just sort of like in a range down here that we're maybe going to bat around in for a while. But we'll see what happens. I mean, we have 2 days left this week, and that will probably tell us quite a bit. On the order flow side of things, slight inflow today. So we have had this mostly odd like divergence of flows when there have been more outflows. We've been having green days. What was 9-1? 9-1, yeah, so big green day here. Well, not big, 2.75, but these two green days, I mean, every day prior to this were green days, and we had mostly large outflow dominating the large scale orders. So interesting that there's this sort of inverse relationship for the time being. I'm not like going to read too much into that, but it's just it's an odd thing to see for sure. On the news side of things, I don't know if you all saw this, but like just more silly things that are coming out on the news cycle, but I do think that there's an element that SoFi gets for the time being that just reminds me a lot of Palantir, or what Palantir has had for a while, where for some reason the media just doesn't want it to succeed. But I think the big difference with SoFi at the moment is they still have this really outsized analyst consensus target that Palantir doesn't necessarily have. But yeah, the stories and the headlines are just funny to me. Max Payne right now, as it's reported by Swaggy, is coming in for Friday at $15. So that would obviously be a question of, are we going to test that 1502 level? I know that there's been questions of whether or not this is accurate as well, but I'll leave it up to you to do your additional looking into it. I'm more focused on the chart for the time being, because once we saw it wedge out and we saw it hold this 1411 zone, we saw it establish over that 1502 and push, and then we saw it start getting into the gap. So to me, that the chart's playing out, and it's my video, so I'm gonna I'm going to talk about that. Shorts coming down a bit again today. To me, they're, like I've been saying, they're relatively staying out of this for the time being. So not a ton to see there, in my opinion. But we'll keep an eye on it, because we know that they can certainly flock in pretty quickly. So I didn't make any changes in my position today. I sort of wanted to see what the rest of the week brings. But it did recover nicely when it stretched down here this morning. It was looking pretty bad when it rejected off the VWAP here. I can take these MAs off. It rejected off the VWAP here early this morning. And then, just kind of caught 15, 14 bounce sort of out of nowhere. There isn't really a ton to look at. I mean, I guess sort of this area, where it was after close last night. But sort of just like a one bounce. It wasn't even really like a double bottom. Just kind of bounced and then was able to reclaim the VWAP, and then just sort of pinned itself to it for most of the day. So similar to how we saw it end the day yesterday, but obviously it was in a different case yesterday. So interested to see if this is a lot of flipping around the VWAP, like I said yesterday, to take out sell and buy orders, or exactly what the deal is. But I do think that the next couple of days will tell us a bunch, and we'll be here, of course, to chat about it. All right, folks, so I hope that you had a great hump day and that we're able to finish the week off strong. I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.